Have you ever heard of Mr. Christmas Tree Man?
It's Sissy's soup.
Well, this is a great story. Quite a few years back, when Bubba was living in Atlanta, he and his life partner Carl would come down here to visit for Christmas. Carl's family lived over in Mulberry, about 30 miles away, and he'd stay over there with them. Bubba stayed over at Mom and Daddy's house. So this one year, Carl and Bubba are here for Christmas, and I get a call from Bubba. He said Carl wants us to meet him in Mulberry. There's something he wants us to see. Now, Carl was full of the devil, so you never knew what kind of prank he was going to pull. I was suspicious from the beginning. Bubba said, I don't know what it is, but he just made me promise that we would come, and he wants us to bring Mama and Daddy with us. Well, all right. So we all piled into Mama's Cadillac. Mama went through a Cadillac phase, and off we went. We met up with Carl, and he got in the car with us, and he started telling Mama where to go. In a nice way, really. Now, like I said before, I was already suspicious, but I couldn't wait to see what was up. We drove down Highway 60 a ways, and Carl told Mama to turn at a sign that said Frog Holler. That's right, Frog Holler. I couldn't make that up. I'm not that creative. In all honesty, Frog Holler was just a trailer park, but the county had seen fit to put up an official sign. As we turned into Frog Holler, we could see this glow coming from down the road. Carl said, follow those lights, and we did. And there it was, a double-wide trailer that was literally covered with Christmas lights. Now, when I say covered, I'm not just talking about a few dozen strings of Christmas lights. Every inch of that trailer was covered in lights, even the front door. And the trailer next door was covered too, like it had kind of spilled over. There were also a bunch of characters that were cut out of plywood. The nativity scene, of course, Santa and his reindeer, and Frosty the Snowman. They looked like they were drawn by an 8th grader, and they were also covered in lights. The display wasn't exactly cohesive, however, because there were Disney characters too. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Pinocchio, and up on the roof next to Santa's reindeer, Dumbo. If you can explain to me what Dumbo has to do with Christmas, I'd like to hear it. Anyway, we all just gasped. Daddy kept saying, "What the hell is this?" Carl just stood there grinning. To this very day, I have never seen anything quite like it. But to take it to a whole nother level, standing in the front yard next to all this mess was a man and a woman. A man and a woman covered from head to toe in Christmas lights. Now let me point out that this was before there were battery-powered LED lights. Way before. They were wearing those big colored lights we used to put outside on houses back in the day to decorate for Christmas. And you could see they were plugged into heavy-duty extension cords. You know they were hot. This is Florida. We parked the car and got out to take a closer look at everything. Now, I failed to mention that it was raining lightly. Oh, yes. It was what we call sprinkling. That's where it's not raining very hard, but if you stand out in it for a while, you're going to get damp. I'm thinking these folks are going to fry at any given minute. So I didn't get too close. Carl was grinning like a Cheshire cat, and he said, This is Mr. Christmas Tree Man, and this is Mrs. Christmas Tree Man. Mrs. Christmas Tree Man. Carl was so tickled just watching the looks on our faces that I thought he'd bust wide open. I thought to myself, these people are seriously disturbed. So I kept my distance. But my mama, on the other hand, well, you would have had to have known my mama. It never bothered her to ask anybody anything. And she had some questions for Mr. and Mrs. Christmas Tree Man. I stood close enough that I could hear what she was saying, but I kept a sharp eye out just in case they went up in flames. So Mama starts interrogating Mr. Christmas Tree Man. Why did you go to all this trouble? How did you get the lights to light up the suit? And how much did it cost? Now that last question embarrassed me a little, but Mr. Christmas Tree Man didn't seem to mind at all. I don't think this was the first time he had heard these questions. He told a sweet story. You see, his mother had Alzheimer's disease. She had always loved Christmas and Christmas lights, so they piled it on to make her happy. I'd say they did an outstanding job. Lord have mercy. Sure enough, you could see an elderly lady staring out the front window of the trailer. He told Mama that the wiring they had originally wasn't strong enough for all the lights, and they had to put in a 220 line to cover it all. Now remember, all this time it's sprinkling, and these people are plugged to 220 volts of electricity. Bubba and I were expecting to see Mr. Christmas Tree Man light up for real. Carl was still grinning like the cat that ate the canary, and Papa just kept shaking his head. Finally, Mr. Christmas Tree Man said, "It's getting a little too damp out here, and I think we better go inside." Duh. Bubba muttered, "I was wondering when he was going to notice it's raining." Daddy said, "Okay, everybody get back in the car," and we did. Well, as soon as everybody was back in the car and Mr. and Mrs. Christmas Tree Man were safely back in the trailer, we all started talking at the same time. Daddy kept looking at Carl and saying, "What the hell was that?" Carl loved it. Finally, Carl got us all to hush. He said, "I know you won't believe this, but there's more." Daddy said, "You've got to be kidding me." Carl just laughed. He had Mama drive down to the end of the street and turn right. Carl said, "Stop right here." I thought he was going to explode. Well, right there, in front of God and everybody, was another trailer, this one with only a few strings of Christmas lights. But there in the front yard, lined up like soldiers, were 8 toilets. Yes, that's right, 8 toilets in the front yard. And they had planted poinsettias in each and every one. Tank and bowl. Now that's a Florida Christmas display. Once in a very great while, you see something so outrageous that you're just too stunned to react. We just sat there the longest time with nobody saying a word. All of a sudden, Daddy said, "Damn!" And it was like they let down the lot gate. We all started howling with laughter. I don't think I've ever laughed so hard in my entire life. I know my ribs ached for days. Well, we must have made a lot of noise because the front porch lights came on. Daddy said, "Mama, get us out of here." And she did. To this day, it's one of the funniest things I have ever seen. I swear every word is true. Well, it's getting late. And as bad as I hate to, I have to say, it's good to quit talking to you. Now go on, go put up your Christmas decorations. Go on. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.